What up guys, John here. Back at it again with another video. So today I kind of wanted to do a different video. I mean, it is still a reaction video. But this is a video where, if you don't know who this is a Star Wars Theory, obviously. Um, but I'm sure some people who aren't familiar with the Star Wars might not know who he is. I don't know. He's the biggest Star Wars, okay. He's the biggest and best Star Wars YouTuber in the world, hands down. Like, it's nuts. The content he puts out, fantastic. But he's doing a ranking of all the Star Wars movies from best to worst. So I kind of wanted to go through it and see what he has to say. I'm interested. I don't know why I haven't seen this video. It just randomly popped up in my recommended on the side, but I normally am like up to date with a lot of his stuff, but he pumps out so much content sometimes something slips through the cracks. But I'm extremely interested in where he ranks the movies and whatnot, so let's hop in and see what he's got to say.
Star Wars movies right here, right now. Let's talk about them. What are my favorites? What are my least favorites? Why and why not?
We would be honored if you would join us.
Let's go into it. So this is a question that I've had asked to me many times over the last 3.5 years that I've been on YouTube. And I've never made a video regarding...
That's 3.5 years at the time of this video, which was 2 years ago. So he's been on it for 5.5 years.
Let's get to it today. So,
it's crazy.
Now that episode 9 is out, I'm going to rank all of the movies, my opinion, my personal favorites, to my least favorites. Okay?
My headphones on.
I'm going to do the top ones first.
I was just going to read the subtitles, but...
Least favorite last. And I'll also incorporate all of the Disney movies as well, not just the Skywalker. They're all included, let's say. Let's just throw them in there. Or I can actually leave them out. Maybe we'll do two different ones. Okay, so the first ones will be only the Skywalker saga, okay? And then the second, I'll throw in the spin-off films, like Rogue One or whatever, but I know that's not really like a main question for people. So, starting with number 1, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I'm a big prequels guy. I was introduced to Star Wars when I was 6 years old by my dad, and that was in 1996 when it was still the original. So I grew up with, the first 3. The 4, 5, 6, the first original 3.
Same here.
And then once the prequels came out, that was my time to kind of enjoy them in theaters and go to the movies and speculate and have my own little theories as a kid and all that stuff. And when Anakin was in Episode 1, at age 9, I was age 9. So it was cool. I could kind of connect with him like that. So it was just a little more connective, really. So Episode 3 is my number 1 because it is...
Definitely helps to be like of a younger age. You can connect with the character more, and it feels like you kind of put yourself in the position of the character, and you are able to absorb into the movie, but kind of become like a part of it yourself. Especially with like a franchise like this that's just so crazy and just so fantastic. I mean, being a part of it or thinking that you're a part of it in your head as a kid while watching it just makes the movie so much better. And I also agree, number 3 is my favorite.
First reason, it's one of the most dark, and in movies in general, not just in Star Wars, I feel like we get a lot of good guys fight the bad guys and then the heroes win. It's always a happy ending. This one, they didn't win. The bad guys won. And I don't want to say like, oh, I love it when bad guys win, but it's different, and it's almost more realistic because life isn't always perfect. It isn't always how you want it to be, and it doesn't end with the favor of the good guys, of the good. There's going to be a lot of, yin and yang, and this movie showed that. It showed a beautiful, massive arc to Anakin's character from the previous 2 films, and then the originals as well, showing, how he led up to that moment. It was just great, from everything from showing Anakin's small little taps into the dark side, like when he was fighting Dooku, you could see when he was using the light, and then Dooku said, you have hate, you have anger, but you don't use them. And then he finally started using the dark side, and that's really when his power just blew up and he killed Dooku, right? Also, to make a little other video one day, Dooku was toying with him, right? He was told to toy with him by Sidious. So that's I don't want to go into details about lore and stuff like that.
Trying to pull the dark side out of him.
That's that.
That's a great fight scene, by the way.
And then we get, Order 66, Anakin's arc, his fall, everything. It was beautiful. I loved it. The next one after that is Episode 5. Now, this is a movie I used to watch all the time with my dad, and it just has a very nostalgic feel.
Fair enough. I feel like episode 5 for a lot of people is their favorite overall, but the people that normally say that aren't necessarily prequel fans. A lot of those people put down the prequels, I feel like, and which is unfortunate, but I've noticed that a lot of people who say episode 5 is their favorite don't necessarily like the prequels that much. I enjoy episode 5 a ton. For me, it goes episode 3, and then we go to the OG Star Wars A New Hope. I just love A New Hope. It's the first Star Wars movie that I ever saw. It's the one that sticks with me the most, I would say. When I think of Star Wars, I think of Revenge of the Sith, and I think of A New Hope. It's such like an uplifting, positive, complete movie that when it's over, you still feel like good. Like everything feels light. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I just feel good and happy watching that movie.
For me, it's just very cozy. It's like it just reminds me. When I think of that movie, I remember that scene where it shows the outside of Yoda's hut, and it's all like raining on Dagobah, and then you go to the next scene where Luke and Yoda are inside, and they have the fire and everything, and it's just very, it's a cool scene. Luke's very distraught. He's trying to find Yoda. He's very impatient, which is a problem that I really have. I'm very impatient in life, and he's forced to be patient when Yoda says, he is not ready. I cannot train him to Obi-Wan through the Force. And the whole movie was just great. It showed so much of Luke getting his butt kicked. And I think that is so darn relatable to life, where you don't always win. You're not always going to win, right? And I love that. He trains, and he still goes, and he fights his father, Darth Vader, and he loses still. Gets his butt handed to him. Goes back to Leia, and, then we go into episode 6. And it's, again, very relatable to life, that no matter how hard you train, there's always someone that's going to be better than you. No matter what you do, you always have to be prepared for more. And you may not always win. Even though your intentions might be good, you may not always win. And I like that. It shows you that you need to work hard, you need to train. And that's really what that movie taught me as a little kid, that not everything's going to be, given to you just because, you do a little bit of work.
Yeah.
I liked it. And it shows a great arc for his character as well.
True.
And it builds the story for Han and Leia's romance, that's for sure. A lot of like fighting and this and that. That was interesting. Also because I used to play Shadows of the Empire a lot, and there was a lot of Hoth scenes in that. And I remember that, with the... Anyways, we're getting off track. The next one after that...
Also, like, Luke is a character that, even though he gets beat down, he always seems to kind of get back up. Especially in that where, he learns that Vader's his father, Yoda's gone, Obi-Wan's gone. Like, there's a lot that happens. He's by himself in that pain for that moment, and one could really turn to the dark side right there, and his purity shows. I mean, he still gets close. I mean, I wouldn't say close in episode 6, but there's hints at it. But it's just his character, man. It's like you said, it's character building. It shows how fantastic he is, and it's a great all around movie. I love that movie a lot.
It's a big tie between episode 6 and episode. Now we're gonna have to go episode 6. So we got 3, 5, 6. Episode 6 is the final conclusion. My favorite movie in all of movie history, I would have to say, is the ending scene in Return of the Jedi.
So yeah, mine goes 3, 4, 6. I think 6 is highly underrated. I've watched this movie a shit ton, and I love it so much. There's just so much that happens. It's a great ending to a fantastic trilogy at the time, which turned into something bigger. But it gives you so much out of that movie. It has so much emotion, uh, and the ending, man, is just so good.
Where Luke walks, takes a right, and looks out to the trees and sees his father, Obi-Wan, and Yoda as a Force ghost. And when they put Hayden Christensen in there, I remember when I bought the revised DVD edition, because I had the VHS before that.
Yeah,
And this was
same.
after, obviously, Revenge of the Sith came out, and I was a huge Anakin fan.
Also same.
And they put Hayden Christensen in there. Teary-eyed. Big surprise, right?
Yep.
I remember that. I was just so happy because it connected the prequels with the originals, and it was so amazing. So there's that. Um, Beautiful, beautiful movie for Luke's arc, Vader's arc, Anakin's arc, and even Palpatine's. It showed a lot of connectivity with species that you may not understand, and I think that's also relatable to life, such as the Ewoks helping the humans, helping the rebels.
Oh yeah, I guess
And
that's
I
true.
thought, having that separation between languages is the barrier between languages really doesn't change when you're fighting for the same cause,
Yeah, they were
and
coming at
it
me.
doesn't make anything different between the two, even though you're completely two different species when you're fighting for the same cause. And I enjoyed that. I like that. You know, two entities coming together to fight the evil. That was great. Um, and of course, for Luke's arc, the most heroic thing he did was not fighting after fighting. After fighting Vader and almost turning to the dark side, he saw what he was about to become, and he threw his lightsaber away, and he put his life on the line for his father. He said, "Well, Father, if you're not going to turn back into Anakin Skywalker to use the light that's good in you still, then I'm going to kill myself." He's willing to die. He's willing to put the rebellion on the line, his friends' lives on the line, everything, the galaxy, all of it. The Last Jedi,
It's like it's such a courageous act, like what he did there. He was sacrificing himself because he knew, even through all the bad shit that his father Vader did, that there was still some light in there. He could see it, he could feel it, and he thought that maybe, I mean, making the ultimate sacrifice would bring that out of him, even if it meant him dying. The galaxy could be saved. It just shows how good and how uncorruptible Luke's character is.
he was at that point. Well, he didn't know, well, he knew that Leia was, but he wouldn't be able to train her. So, really, that was it. Yoda was dead. And then, of course,
Yeah, rest in
Vader
peace, Yoda.
changes who he is. Anakin breaks through, and Sidious is thrown over the railing and dies. I thought that was beautiful. Okay, sacrifice, and then of course Vader goes off and he dies. Says, take my mask off so I can see you with my own eyes, and he does. And it's just a very beautiful scene, very touching scene. And I don't think anything can be recreated like that in cinema history again. It was just
It's a very iconic scene.
so iconic. I wonder what it was like for the original trilogy fans who got to see it in theaters for the first time. Must have been really interesting. Must have been really nice. After that, we go to episode 1. Episode 1
Really?
for me is extremely special because I was obsessed with Darth Maul. Like,
I guess that would
I
make sense.
bought his staff saber.
'Cause
like
we're
the-
only
the
doing
really
1 through
crappy
9.
plastic one as a kid. And I bought his costume, his Halloween costume, dressed up as him for Halloween. I practiced with that thing so many times.
Dude, when Darth Maul came on screen, holy shit. That changed the game. Face paintings, lightsabers, all kinds of shit. It was Darth Maul, everything, everywhere. That character was so cool. And yeah, I go 3, 4, 6, 5, 1 at this point.
And I'm still pretty good with it to this day with a bow staff.
I think I've
It
seen
was a
some
great
of
film.
his, like,
I loved it.
him messing
I
around.
thought
It's pretty
Qui-Gon
impressive.
and Obi-Wan and Anakin were just very good together. Qui-Gon is, to this day, one of my favorite characters after Anakin, I would have to say. I just love how he's just not so rigid like the other Jedi, and this is why he wasn't on the council, is because he followed the Force. He did his own thing, kind of. He was a little bit rogue, the whole thing with the dice, changing the dice, making sure that it was in his favor with Watto. I think all of that was just so beautifully done, and it was refreshing to see a Jedi that wasn't so just dogmatic.
It
like
wasn't as
Palpatine's.
clean cut and rigid.
Also, the way he died in the end. Um, Obviously, we've seen worse deaths in Star Wars and they've survived, but we can go into that in another video. But his death needed to be done, and when he died, he passed on all he knew to Obi-Wan, and he told Obi-Wan to train the boy. So it really started with Qui-Gon. This
It's like
entire
unfortunate
Star
that he
Wars
died, but
started
it
with
had to happen.
Qui-Gon. If that ship didn't break down and they didn't go to Tatooine, there would be no Star Wars. There'd be no Anakin. Nothing. So there's that. Episode 4. It's between episode 4 and episode 2. Episode 2 for me was really
Really?
special because I just remember going to the theater as a kid. I remember, connecting with Anakin, and I would say after the Return of the Jedi scene at the end there, my second most favorite in all of movie history would have to be when Anakin blasts off on his speeder and goes to save his mother.
Okay.
That is, I would even say that's maybe even cooler than the Return of the Jedi. So they both give you different feels, and it was just so goddamn cool to see that. It really was. He just, like, this was the first time he ever went into the dark side in canon, at least, and it was just
Bro, and he went in hard. Hard. Not only the men, but the women and children too.
really cool to see, and I think Hayden Christensen did an absolutely perfect job of portraying that. Of course, his mother dies, turns to the dark side, slaughters all the Sand People, and then, goes on to kind of cry about it because he just did. This is so against the Jedi Code, so against his way, but he unleashed that hatred for the first time, and it's something that Qui-Gon felt into the netherworld of the Force, and I thought that was really interesting as well, and Yoda felt it. So there was all a real cool stuff in that. Also, again, Anakin, even through his rage and everything, gets his butt kicked to Dooku, but he was
True.
cool, and it showed that he could last longer than Obi-Wan, even though he was just a Padawan. And the whole double saber thing, I still remember the trailers for that, and I was so
Yeah.
excited. I thought it was so cool. And Yoda showing up, right? Battle of Geonosis.
That's
was
that.
really
Yeah,
cool.
that the whole.
That was another movie.
There's a
I
lot of
watched
good.
lot.
Like
So
that
I would
movie's
have to say,
highly underrated.
then we go episode 2. Then we go episode 4. So we got 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 4. Episode 4.
So yeah, I would go 2 or 1 and then 2 after. So yeah, mine would be 3, 4, 6, 5. Yeah, 1, 2. Dude, like the twin sun scene, that is like. And the song, dude, like the feel I get every time I hear that song and every time I see that scene is just, I don't get it anywhere else other than Lord of the Rings, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, it's classic, right? It's the first one. But
Such
in
a
correlation with
complete
the other
movie.
ones, it's beautiful, but it's not as action-packed, I would say,
Fair enough.
right? Like episode 4 and episode 5, totally different.
And the action
Which
you do get
farm,
is just.
farm boy. It's the story, I would say, is probably the most beautiful because he's a farm boy, he doesn't know where he belongs, and then he's looking out in the twin suns. And by the way, that's apparently George Lucas's favorite scene in all of Star Wars because it reminds him of him, where he is
Nice.
looking out to the sun and wondering where his next adventure is going to be. I read that in a comic, one of the comics.
Of course
One
you
of the
did.
canon comics.
This man knows like everything.
And he goes on, he finds this wizard, and he goes to become this hero of the rebellion and learns the subtleties of the Force, and then through that expands and grows and everything, and then becomes who he becomes. So now we're done with the first 6. Now let's go into the sequels. Episode 9. Beautiful. I loved it. For what we got after The Last Jedi. If I could go back and redo the sequels, of course I would. I would have Luke, Leia, Han all together in, some emotional scenes. The band back together again. And I would have Kylo
Episode
not lose
9,
so much. I
huh?
would have Rey not be so powerful off the get-go and show her training and all this stuff, even though, she is who she is. No spoilers in this. And
Man, everyone's already seen it. Episode 9, man. I left the theater after episode 9 thinking. I mean, I guess we came off of The Last Jedi so disappointed that Rise of Skywalker, I don't know, there's so many cool visuals fantastic music, some good fights. The ending with Kylo, him turning to the good and making that sacrifice was really cool. There's some cringy stuff in there, some bad writing, etc. You can redo 7, 8, and 9 and make them absolutely fantastic, even with that same cast, but they just had no real direction, so it was unfortunate. But okay,
Yeah, I would do things much differently.
9.
Luke in The Last Jedi would have been much more powerful. He would have shown who he was. He maybe would have been how we saw him in the beginning of the film. How he like gave up and he was afraid. But then he would have gone on with Rey, and he would have been like, okay, you know what? I see my mistakes. I see how I shouldn't have been here, like a hermit, like he says in Episode 9, and he goes on to redeem himself. And I think that would have been awesome. We didn't have to wait till Episode 9 to see that redemption, that he realized he was wrong and afraid. So I think that would have been cool. So for the sequels, 9, definitely, and then 7 and 8. I really want to like 8, but I just don't. That's
Fair
the
enough.
unfortunate part.
It's so
7 for
visually
me
pleasing.
It was really like all of the originals put into one movie, but with
That's
different
exactly
characters,
how I
younger
thought of it.
characters. It was really, the first part of the Episode 7 was really like Episode 4. You got Rey, the scavenger in the desert, doesn't know who she is, where she belongs. Then you've got, the second part, which is, kind of like Hoth and all that stuff, and it's like, it was cool, Then the third, of course, is kind of like the end of the film where Rey beats the evil one and Kylo, and that's that. So it was fun, but it was a good movie. And Episode
entertaining,
8 would be
100%.
last for me because
Nostalgia and entertainment.
Luke was a character for me growing up. And I just don't like to see my heroes stay in the slump like that. And I know a lot of people might be like, saying, like, well, no, he freed he gave hope to the rebellion, to the resistance, and he changed a lot of lives because of that. And I'm like, well, he could have shown up, And at the end, and there, just him dying was just like, he's so powerful, I the way he was written, it didn't speak to me, and if it speaks to you, that's great. But I didn't like it, so it would have to go dead last
That's how I
for
feel.
me, even after all of the spin-off films. Yeah. So now, if we're gonna put spin-off films in there, so we've got 3. Nothing touches the original trilogy for me. So we've got 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 4. Then we've got Rogue One. Then we've got Solo. I thought Solo was great. I mean, it's a movie about Han
It's a
Solo.
fun movie.
I'm not that unbelievably attached to him like I am to Luke, right? So it's not as sensitive a matter. But I feel
Great
like it
characters,
was a great movie. It
cool
was
story.
entertaining. I feel
Yeah.
like the actor, Alden, was perfectly
Yeah, he
chosen.
fit the
He did a
role great.
job.
Lando
And
was
the whole cast
fantastic.
was great.
Seeing
I think it
Maul
really
at the
only
end
got
was awesome.
backlash or kind of tanked at the box office because of the backlash of The Last Jedi, because fans
Yeah,
weren't
100%.
happy. That's really the only reason. So
I didn't go
I don't
see
think it
it.
should have deserved that. I'm pretty
theaters,
sure if
but
it came out
I
before
kind of regret that.
Episode 8, it probably would have done a lot better. But at the end of the day, you all may have your own favorites for Star Wars, and I'd love to hear them down below, so please.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the legend himself. I was kind of surprised that he put 1 and 2 above 4, but he gave his reasoning, and it's understandable. The 9, I'm also surprised he put 9 above 7, but I do agree with his reasoning as to why. I mean, 7 is cool, it's entertaining, it's fun, it's nostalgia, jam-packed full. And then, of course, The Last Jedi being the last one, I 100% agree with. That movie is so visually pleasing. It's just like, it just was not written well. But, I don't know, it's, the visuals, like, the whole thing with Luke was so disappointing to me. And there's a lot of missed opportunities with what they could have done. But then I left the theater after seeing 9 thinking, I left and I was like, I love Star Wars. Like, even with the gripe that movie gets, and it can be criticized for sure. There's still a lot of cool stuff in it, and I just, as a Star Wars fan, I was still just entertained. It's Star Wars, man. Like, even if it's not perfect for you as a person, it's still something you can enjoy. Like, there are parts of The Last Jedi that I enjoy. it's Star Wars, and at the end of the day, yeah, I love it. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought down below. How you would rank the movies. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.